Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I'm going to do a follow-up to my recent video, which was Baby Reindeer, Who Are the Real Stalkers? I had not seen this series when it came out on Netflix back a ways, but I did watch it, and I had issues with it because it said true story. And then watching it, I'm going, this is I had some questions about this being a true story, at least all of it being a true story. And it wasn't a documentary. And it didn't say based on a true story or fiction and could have been a true story. It said a true story. And so I'm watching it, and I had a lot of conflicting feelings while I was watching it, and opinions, because I didn't have any documentation about how much was true and how much wasn't. Richard Gadd is the one who wrote it and acted in it. I think his acting was phenomenal. Her acting was phenomenal. And the claim was that, I didn't, he said, I'm not presenting a particular person. But everybody knew really quickly that he was absolutely presenting Fiona Harvey, that so much stuff matched her. They looked pretty much alike. They spoke pretty much alike. There were emails that were, I think, essentially her emails, So yeah, he pretty much outed her and put her in this series as, this is my stalker. This is what she did to me. And then there were things added to it that apparently are not true at all, which is she never did assault him or assault his girlfriend, nor did she end up in prison. So the problem Netflix is having is that she's now sued for something like $170 million. And so they are going to have to fight her lawsuit that she says defamed her. And since it was pretty darn clear that this series he put together with Netflix was about her, if you're going to do that, you better be sure what you put in there is 100% true. But that's not apparently what happened. Apparently they added stuff, and therefore she's suing. Now, when I watched all of this, my question was she as much of a stalker as he claimed? And because he is what I would call an unreliable narrator. And you can have that in fiction where you're like, is the person who is telling the story, should we believe them? And my question was, should I believe him? Because to me, he's an actor and he's a he's a very creative man. And I don't know whether he's creating all of this in order to make a whole lot of money and be famous. He even says during the entire production that fame was more important to me than anything else. Being seen, being recognized, being important was more important than anything else. A very narcissistic statement, I might add. So how could I trust him to be presenting the absolute truth in this series? So the question I had is she really a stalker? Or was she an annoying woman? Did she have issues but wasn't as that much of a level of a stalker I was being presented? And she went on Piers Morgan, and while she was on Piers Morgan, did I feel comfortable with it? No. She had there was something about her that I found discomforting. However, I couldn't tell whether she was a little autistic or she had some level of personality disorder or whether she was a straight up psychopath. But I couldn't tell from that interview. Even though I'm a profiler and I do statement analysis and all this, those situations are sometimes very difficult to determine because they're unique situations when you're on television. And people act in very unusual ways on television, especially when they're trying to defend themselves. You can't always trust exactly what you're seeing unless you get to see many different interviews, and then you can start saying, okay, I've seen enough of this where I know what they're like normally, and then I'm seeing all these things. I'm seeing deception everywhere. I clearly knew she stumbled. I knew she probably was saying, like a person who's caught drunk driving, no, I just had 2 drinks, 2 with a 0 on it, I thought that when she said, oh, I just contacted him a few times, probably a few meant way more. But the question was she a true stalker, or was she freaking just annoying? Because as a criminal profiler, I've had many people contact me a lot. And hey, you guys who are my friends and fans, you're not this group. And yet sometimes I communicate a lot with you. We chit chat back and forth and you send me stuff. And I've had people who send me a lot of stuff and contact me a lot. And I don't consider them stalkers. I don't even consider them annoying. I consider that, isn't this nice? I appreciate the communications because it makes me feel like what I'm doing has some meaning to people. But there's a small group which can become very annoying. And then there's a smaller group that are stalkers. And I've had a number of stalkers in my life. And I've had a stalker, I'll get into this, who reminds me of her. Now that I know more. Why do I know more? I want to thank the person who sent me documents, legal documents. This is what I've been waiting for. Legal documents in the Netflix case, which shows me how much of what he says is true about her. And again, thank you. Now, what did I read? I'm going to read you a little bit from, this is the Declaration of Richard Gadd. And I want to read some of this to you because we'll find out about her, but also find out about him and how he responded and how the police responded and what I see as the problem in a lot of this whole issue. Okay, he says, I'm Richard Gadd. I'm a comedian, writer, and actor. I have seen some of his comedy, don't like it. I see him more as a performance artist. I do agree that he's a writer. I do agree he's an actor. But I do feel that he's heavily into performance style art. I don't think I would like it on the stage at all. I did kind of like it here, okay? But he's a good actor. I'll give him credit on that. He's good. Okay, I created, wrote, and starred in a Netflix series, Baby Reindeer. I have personal knowledge of the facts set forth, and if called as a witness, could and would testify. All right. Then he goes on a little bit about his previous stuff and how he got where he got. Let's see. Okay. He talks about this Monkey See, Monkey Do is one thing he performed, and he got a lot of praise for. And this was a competition. It was meant to represent his struggle to regain his masculinity and sense of self after I was sexually assaulted. This was sexually assault. He has a whole bit in the series about being sexually assaulted by a man that he is cozying up to because that man is going to help him with his career. Spends a lot of time with that man. That man invites him to his place. They hang out a lot together. So it's not like he went there one time and got roofied and got raped. No, he went there over and over again. The guy was helping him with his writing and his career. And then they started doing more drinking and more drugs and then more drugs. And then the man started doing things to him while he was still in the drug stage, like touching him. He knew it had happened. He went back. He went back and he went back until he claims he was raped. And even later, he goes back and sees the guy again. Now, I'm going to tell you why he says he does these things. All right. Now, he says here, in this series, the Baby Reindeer thing, the series reprises character scenes and dialogue from the theater version of Baby Reindeer and is a continuation of my exploration of sexual abuse, manipulation, exploitation, obsession, sexual identity, self-loathing, self-destruction, and self-discovery. If you want to write a series that pretty much checks all the boxes for every one of people's emotional problems, he's done it. And I don't know if he's done it because he's got smart and decided his comedy career wasn't working out. But if he could put this all together and really, and sell it, he'd have a hit, which he did. But I don't know what his motivation truly was. He says, my personal struggles with my sexual identity, experience of sexual abuse, harassment, and stalking inspired me to write and star in this thing. Okay. I want to point this out. The level of, the amount of problems he has and that he exhibits, he says, of course, he's just acting in this series, but the amount of problems he claims he has is so extreme, so many, that I don't know if he's being a drama queen and all of this stuff, and that's what gets him the attention he loves. And if he's always seeking attention, then what he's suffering from is a personality disorder, which is known as narcissism, a narcissistic personality disorder. He has to have ongoing attention, or he feels It's not enough for him. It's never enough for him. He's got to have more and more and more and more and more. Attention, attention, attention. That's a personality disorder called narcissism. Now, he also may have a little bit of what I consider a masochistic personality, because he seems to have everybody hurting him, hurting him, hurting him, hurting him, and he seems to thrive being hurt, because being hurt, in theory, makes him important. He gets attention from being hurt. Look, this happened to me. Then this happened to me. This is happening to me. That is happening to me. So now I'm struggling with this and struggling with that. Listen to my story. You get attention. And there's a weird kind of relationship between masochists and sadists. In other words, masochists thrive with what sadists do to them. That's why there are sexual preferences, whereas one person is going to be the person who is harmed, and the other person is one who's doing the harming. Now, suppose it's all consensual, you see. BDSM, it's consensual. But what is the issue here? Why would one person want to be humiliated and feel pain, and the other person get a thrill out of giving it? Both people are getting what they want if they're doing it consensually. Both of them need something. I think the sadist needs power and control, and the person who is accepting that kind of treatment feels like at least they're getting attention. And if they can do this for the person, if they can allow that person to do that to them, then somehow they're important to that person because they allow it, because they're willing to go through that. I kind of see in this whole scenario that he may be and he may, let me say right up front, may. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, criminal profiler. I'm not diagnosing anyone. But there are levels of personality disorders which I think may be exhibited. And I think for Richard Gadd, it may be that he struggles with a narcissistic personality disorder. I say struggles because it's causing him all these problems. And he may have some level of masochism, which gives him the attention that he desires. She may have a personality disorder called psychopathy, where she wants 100% power and control. And if she doesn't get it, she is going to find a way to get it or make you miserable. That's what I'm seeing in a lot of the information I've just gotten, that she may be that kind. So now that I have seen evidence of her behaviors, I think that may represent what kind of person she is and what she is doing to other people. And I'll explain a little bit of this a bit. Okay, so let me go through a little bit more here. Okay, so he says, the series is a dramatic work. It's not a documentary or an attempt at realism. Then don't put a true story. A true story is a true story. I don't know what part of you don't know what the word true means. True is true. If it's not true, then it's false. And that's why she's suing. And she has the right to sue because apparently there's no evidence she ever attacked him, did any violent acts against another human being physically, like beating them and poking their eyes out and that kind of thing. And she never was in jail. Those are straight up. If you're going to represent her in this supposed, what is it called? A dramatic work. You cannot represent a person, 90% of them, which it seems like they did in this, and then add in 10% that wasn't true. So let's say you decide to do a documentary about Pat Brown, and you say, Pat Brown, I think Pat Brown is this and Pat Brown is that, and this is what Pat Brown did, and that is all true. And then you come out and say I'm a drug addict or a sex addict or that I'm a thief. I'm going to sue you because you might have been 90% right about me. And man, I may not have been pleasing for me to see you resent me that way, but I'm like, that's kind of true. But then you say I'm a drug addict. I don't touch drugs. Don't say that about me. I mean, that would piss me off. If you say things about me that aren't true, I would want to sue. She's going to sue because stuff in there wasn't true. And you cannot say it's a true story if it's not a true story. It's not even based on a true story. It said true story. Now, So he says this dramatic work is not a documentary. No, it is not a documentary. So in other words, she didn't represent herself, and there wasn't like the regular documentary, true crime documentary about stalking. No, it wasn't that. However, it wasn't just a dramatic work either. And he says not even an attempt at realism, except he wanted to be so real in there that he cries and he struggles and he even admits he's a mess, and he does all these things, and he even presents himself being raped. He's working overtime on realism. People love this series because it's so real. But no, it wasn't about realism. While the series is based on my life and real life events and is at its core emotionally true, it is not beat by beat recounting of the events and emotions I experienced as they transpired. It is fictionalized and not intended to portray actual facts. Come on. Richard Gadd, you are disingenuous. You made an entire series based on her, and suppose this other guy who raped you, and suppose based on pretty much a good portion of your life and your feelings about it. And just because you moved here, this one to here, and this one to here, and you add something here, doesn't make it what? Just emotionally true, but not actually true. And I agree, it's not always factually true, and that's the problem, because it's supposed to be a true story. So I have my issues with Richard Gadd. I think he's a great actor, but I have issues with him. I do. Okay, let's see what else he says. While a series is my emotionally true story, as I recall and recount, it is not intended to depict any real persons. But yet in this in this lawsuit, he has put a massive amount of information about her. He's actually got copies of emails and everything that happened. If he's got all of that, then it is a real person, isn't it? You can't have it be both ways. So that fact that he kept saying it wasn't based on a real person, but then he's fighting the lawsuit as it's based on a real person, you are not trustworthy. Let's see. Instead I created fictionalized characters. Yeah, he fictionalized himself and her just a wee bit, but not enough, which were foils to aid my exploration of my own experiences and trauma. What? You added some fictionalized stuff because that helped you with your trauma. People are going to buy this too, I bet. Okay, I intentionally used characters that did not share the actual names of any person in my life. Okay, you give them a pseudonym, but you made sure they looked exactly alike and talked alike and did everything alike and were based on exactly a whole litany of things that happened that are documented. Oh my God. And they're all being used as dramatic devices. Okay. I used my experiences to craft the Martha character specifically to both feed into Donnie's desperate need for attention, or Richard Gadd's desperate need for attention, and self-esteem issues, and challenge him in ways that make him confront his past abuse and its effects on him. So he says he's exaggerating what actually happened so that it could more show his need to confront his issues. Which is one reason I didn't know how much of this was actually true, even though it was a true story. All right. The Donnie character is intended to be both a pitiable protagonist. Yes, he was very pitiful. Yes, very pitiful. And I don't know how much I pitied you as much. I was really annoyed by you. But I thought, this guy is a mess, and he's annoying as heck because he never makes any decent choices. And he's only about himself. He was basically screws everybody else over because he's got issues. He uses other people, and then he claims he cares about them, even her. Oh, I don't want to be mean to her. He's always the good guy, the nice guy, but he's using people all the time and screwing people over. So, yeah, he wasn't a guy that I want to know. Except I might hire him as an actor because he's good. All right. It was my hope that the audience would recognize that neither of them was truly the aggressor nor the victim. Really? If that's what you wanted, that you shouldn't be seen just as a victim and she shouldn't be seen just as an aggressor, that neither one of you were one of those, absolutely those things, then you just made Netflix's case, because you're saying I wasn't a total victim and she wasn't a total aggressor. Oh, no, but that's just the fictionalized version of it. But in real life, she was totally the aggressor and you were totally the victim. Make up your mind. All right. And let's see what else we have here. Okay, so now let's get to when he first met her. This gets really interesting to me. Following the first meeting, Harvey subsequently stalked and harassed me throughout 2014 and 2017. That's 3 years. She frequently appeared at the pub that he was working at. It quickly became clear she had memorized my shift pattern by hanging around the pub constantly. She would then arrive just before my shift started. On most days I was working and sit at the end of the bar. In the movie, it's like the series, she never even pays for her drinks and stuff. I don't know any pub that allows people to come in there and just sit there and not purchase items there. It's a business. It's not a park. It's not a park bench. It's a business. You come in here, you order food and drink, and after a period of time, you either order more food or drink. You get the hell out. She would also call the pub constantly on days when I was not working to check if I was in. This went on for a very long period of time. Sometimes she would stay for my entire shift. Other times she would stay a few hours. Sometimes she would just say something and abruptly leave. Harvey's behavior became quickly concerning for me. What started out as someone sitting at the end of the bar and chatting most days turned into her directly impacting my ability to work, interjecting as I tried to serve tables and talking to most customers I served at the bar. She would often try to engage with me by repeatedly trying to make jokes or quote banter. She would tell customers of the pub that I was a comedian and sometimes adopt smutty innuendos to try and embarrass me in front of the staff. At first, I engaged with Harvey and her jokes, viewing her as harmless, which I get in the beginning. That's why I say it's hard to know if she's annoying or whether she's psychopathic or stalkerish, or is she just annoying and she's just not socially that able to deal with people in a way other people in society like. So is she just that one of those people? And I've met a lot of those people in my life, and some of them are sitting at bars all the time. A lot of people go to pubs because they have social issues. It's like the only place they can go have a beer and try to get anybody to talk to them. People do that at Starbucks too. I've seen some very lonely people come in Starbucks and order coffee and then try to talk to people. People even recommend that, if you live alone and you need to be around people, why don't you go to Starbucks? Yeah. So you can go order coffee and annoy the customers or annoy the people that work there. Great idea. Anyway, this does happen quite often though. So just because a person does it doesn't mean they're a stalker. It could mean they're lonely. So I get that he was nice in the beginning. Makes sense. Then it goes on, but soon it became exhausting. And I quickly grew frustrated at her continual and unrelenting presence in my work life. When Harvey was around, I had my guard up. There was a particular intense period of time when she often attempted to touch me in inappropriate and sometimes sexual ways. She pinched and touched various parts of my body, including my bum, and was very handsy toward me. The attention was unwelcome, and I found myself constantly trying to dodge her advances and unwanted physical contact while serving tables. I did ask her to leave me alone and to refrain from making advances to me on several occasions, but she ignored my request, and as with her wider behavior, she was persistent and relentless. Now, it says here around March 2015. Now, mind you, when she starts this thing in 2014, harassing him. Now he's talking about March 2015. And it says that she became increasingly hostile toward me and others at the Hawley Arms. Now, interestingly, his boss says that he then in 2000, was it 2015? The boss says, "Hey, you can't come." He tries to ban her from there. But somewhere else it says that in January 2015, she says, "Hey, I heard you. I've been banned." But now he's saying March 2015. So all the dates don't really jive really well together. But in my opinion, we're talking that she's been doing this nonstop harassment for what appears to be something like a year. And okay, so here's my first problem. What's wrong with the pub owner? What the heck is going on? My son has worked. He was a bouncer at a bar for quite a few years. Let me tell you, this woman doing what she was doing, all you have to do is say, "This woman is not purchasing stuff. She's sitting at the bar. She's harassing me. She's harassing customers. Get her out of here." My son would have gotten her out of there. The bouncers, and a couple other bouncers, like three of them, they would have removed her from the bar and she would not be allowed to come back in. That would have happened on maybe day one. Okay, maybe they let her a few days, maybe a week or two. Then they realize that this woman's just getting out of control. She'd be out of there. What the hell? An entire year, she's harassing the customer. She's harassing you. She's touching your body. It takes you all a year to ban her And then apparently she's still, is she still coming around after the ban? It's very confusing. But if you run a pub or bar or a restaurant or anything, and you allow this kind of behavior, what the heck is wrong with you? Now, clearly, if it's a guy doing it, probably they booted them out real quick. A lot of times you give women too much leeway. But if she's that much of a problem, the bigger problem is you're an idiot, and so is your boss, because the two of you should have gotten her out of there right up front. I mean, that's unacceptable behavior. That is not normal behavior. That's not normal bar behavior. You don't have to go to work and be harassed the whole time you're at work, unless you got a problem. You loved the attention. You said you didn't like it, but you did like it because that's a thing that you have. If you have a narcissistic personality disorder and a level of masochism, because that gives you at least more attention than no attention. Now I don't trust you again. Unreliable narrator. I don't know quite everything you're saying is true. Did you really tell her to stop? Did you really put your foot down? Did you somehow egg her on, encourage her, not be bothered by? How much of you is the problem? Because your boss took a year to ban her, at least a year. Why? Wouldn't you go to your boss right away and say, look, I can't keep working in this joint if this woman comes in the door anymore? Why didn't you do something? Why didn't you go straight away to the police? You had to, and these are days with phones too, videos. Why didn't you take videos of this woman right up front and go straight away to the police? Why didn't you call the police while she was there harassing you? Just call 911. I don't know what it is in the UK. It's 911 here. Whatever it is, why didn't you call them? Now, will the police always respond well? No, but at least it's on record. At least you're doing something about it. But you just, for an entire flipping year, I had problems with that. Now, then she goes on. Let's see, matters escalated. Her visits to the pub became increasingly intense. At times, I would hide in the basement or on a balcony in the hope that she would get bored and leave the pub. I was scared of Harvey and what she might be capable of, having seen the articles about her behavior toward the Rays online. Okay, so the Rays, this would be Laura Ray. So some time back, she had gone for a job interview, and she got this, I guess, internship type thing. And right away, her boss was like, okay, this woman her behaviors are all inappropriate. She's creeping me out, and she got fired. And then she didn't like being fired. So then she started harassing Laura Ray. And Laura Ray did something about it. She did go to the police. Now, she didn't end up in jail or anything, but at least Laura Ray did something. Now, I want to point out what kind of behavior I see her exhibiting between the Laura Ray issue and his issue, because she did go around a lot. And there are a ton of emails which are very sexualized emails, nasty stuff. I mean, I don't particularly like her. Her behavior is appalling. Now, what kind of behavior is that? Well, I had a very similar stalker. I was asked by the police department about a particular fellow. He was going to a therapist who I think it was required by law at that point in time because of some of his other behaviors. And he told that therapist he was going to be the next Jeffrey Dahmer. So the police asked if I could engage him online on a particular site, which is called menunderwater.com, where men drowned other men. And that's a sexual little fetish thingy. And so I'm like, okay. So I did go online and I posted as a 15-year-old boy to A, see whether he was going to do this, and B, whether he was interested in doing it with underage people. And the answer to that was yes and yes. So I did pose. I did go through these little scenarios. And at some point, when I came back in with the police department and they looked at this, I think it was an FBI agent there too, and he looks at it and he goes, "This is you? You wrote this?" He's looking at older female on this, and he's like, "You couldn't believe I wrote that." I was like, "Look, I've been in profile for a long time. I can talk the talk if I have to talk the talk, you know?" And so I said, yes, he definitely has a fetish for drowning men, young men. He also doesn't have any problem with putting like plastic bags around their head. And he actually went into real life and did that. I said he's a potential serial killer for sure. But, so yes, I do. I think he's a danger. I do. And it turned out, apparently he had a lot of interesting fetishes. Like, he worked at he worked at a funeral home, and I don't want to get into what he did there. But anyway, he got fired for what he did there, and then he sued the funeral home. He liked to. This is really the thing he did. He loved to sue people. So he was 100%, in my opinion, had the behaviors of a psychopath. He loved power and control. He was a pathological liar. He only cared about himself, highly narcissistic, had grandiose thinking, all these things. And on top of it, he didn't like to lose. And if he lost, he would come after you. So not all psychopaths will do that. There are people who quietly do things. So there's many serial killers will just simply, pop out in the night and sort of rape and murder somebody, and then they'll go back home and have pizza and have a nice time with the children and wifey, and they won't take it out on anybody. But there are those who do not like to lose, because that shatters their omnipotence. He was that guy. So once you pissed him off, he would go after you with a lawsuit. He would send you emails telling you how horrible you were and how you were, he was going to get you. He was going to get you. He was going to get you. I got those emails. I know who you are and I know what you did. I'm going to get you. I'm going to sue you, blah, blah, blah. And he sent me a pile of them. He's a vindictive style of psychopath. And that to me is what she behaves like. She behaves like, not saying she is a psychopath, but she behaves like a vindictive style psychopath. She loves power and control. She wants to make sure she is the center of attention. She wants to get what she wants. She wants you to be impressed by her and all this kind of stuff. And when she doesn't get exactly what she wants, she will turn on you and she will go after you tooth and nail and make you suffer for rejecting her. Vindictive style of psychopathy, if that is what she is. So here we go. So she does go into this location. He is kind of a perfect target, because if he's going to be the type that is kind of masochistic and loves the attention, she's found this guy who's a sucker for what she wants to give out in the beginning. After time goes on, she becomes exhausting because she won't relent. And then he finally says, hey, enough of this, because now he is getting sort of tired because she's interfering with enough of his life that he's exhausted with it. And then she's out to get him because you had dared to defy me and turn me down and not show me 100% interest. So he set himself up to be a victim, and says that now everybody knows they're going to become a victim. And I'm not trying to blame the victim type of thing here. A lot of people become victims because they're too nice. That is a problem. You're too nice. It's like, oh, I didn't want to be mean, so therefore I went along with their program, and now I'm screwed. Yeah, that happens quite often. I tend to start out being nice to people, and sometimes that does end up with somebody becoming then enamored by me enough to become a stalker. Because then they think, oh my God, she really does like me. I really could be her best friend, or whatever they think I could be. And they glom onto me and they don't want to let go. And so I have dealt with quite a few stalkers, but I would say the fellow that was threatening me with the lawsuits, he was creepy as hell, because he was indeed a sexual psychopath. Now, so the information coming in about her in the lawsuit, his timing and all that stuff is very weird. The fact that it took so long to ever even go to the police, do anything about it. He didn't shut down. And now he did have a way to shut down the emails. Finally, the police said, shut down the emails. And he finally did. Now she's like, oh, you shut down my email. He finally did it. What took you so long, dude? Just block her. And then he says at another place, he didn't want to change his phone number because he thought it was her responsibility to change her behavior, not that he has to change his. She's a stalker. According to you, she's 100% a stalker that you're afraid of. You think she's going to change her behavior because she should? Really? Really? Do I think you even believe that? No, I don't. I don't know that you didn't keep the number because you still like the attention. I wonder about you. So as much as you, maybe you're It's one of those things where you protest this too much. And I wonder how much you got out of this and whether you were building yourself a show, because all this stuff happening, you saw as a great future Netflix series, because you're not dumb. So I think, was she what she is? I think so. But are you what you are? I think so too. So the next thing I want to just talk about is the police issue here. What you can take to the police and what you can't. So he decides he's going to. There's also, by the way, he says that she says things that are politically offensive to him, statements that are xenophobic or racist or whatever. That's not illegal. She has a right to any political opinion she likes, even one you don't like. So if you go to the police and say, I don't like what she says about these people, that's not really something they're going to do something about. Although the world has changed, maybe they will today. But that really is free. That's kind of free speech. Now, her harassment of you and anything like that, that can be that is stalking, and that you can get the police involved in. So anyway, she sent thousands of emails. He claims hundreds of voicemails, number of handwritten letters. These communications often included sexually explicit, violent, and derogatory content. Violent content, the question is it a threat, or is it just talking about stuff that's violent? Okay. Hateful speech and threats. The threats is important. The emails and voicemails attached to this declaration represent just a fraction of those I received. So he did keep them, which I'm glad that there is evidence of what she did, and I will vouch for that. Then let's see. I want to see where he said when he finally went to. Okay, when did he finally go to? Let me see. When did he finally go to the police? Okay, there's a lot of information here. It's a long document. Okay. She was going to his performances again. You can stop her from coming to them, but I don't think they did enough. Okay, here we go. After years of enduring Harvey's stalking, harassment, abuse, and threats, years, dude. Years is question. It's not. I do think that I looked at some of the time frame. Yeah, he's not kidding. But what the heck? Why were you enduring years of it unless you were getting something out of it? Because I'm sorry, that's unnecessary. Just like the bar theoretically should not have her harassing people and you for over a year before anybody does anything about it. Something's fishy about that, and I'm just going to say, you have a responsibility as an adult too to do what you need to do. And if you're not willing to do it, well, some of that is on you. And if you actually aren't doing it for a reason because you like the attention when you're writing a Netflix series in the future, then maybe the reason you didn't report it is because you didn't want to. After years of enduring her stalking, I went to the police in February of 2016. She started in 2014. So we're talking at least over 2 years. The police warned that police intervention might exacerbate the situation and lead to further prolonged contact from her. That is sometimes true. Just because you get a paper and say, hey, stop stalking me, doesn't mean that that's going to stop people. It's a paper. But I will say this, never expect that kind of thing. Anything cease and desist, no contact. Don't ever expect that can stop a violent psychopath from killing you. That will not do it. Because if they want to kill you, the paper's not going to get in the way. So if you do give that out, if the police give that to a person you believe is actually dangerous, you still have to watch yourself, watch your butt, make sure you got locks on the doors. Maybe you have to be armed. Maybe you need to get extra people there to protect you. Maybe you need to move and hide. I mean, the paper's not going to stop a violent stalking psychopath. However, it's useful in the sense that the alert is there, so if they cross the line, they can be arrested, and therefore it won't go on for years, because if they cross the line, the police will show up. Where if you don't ever do that, the police will never show up. But yes, it sometimes does it make them angry? Sure, it does. So the police warned that, and they said they recommend they refer Harvey to, quote, the appropriate mental health community intervention team for support in this case, rather than issue a first incident harassment warning letter. Okay, so they tried to get her help, which is nonsensical, because if she is a stalker like that, most stalkers are psychopaths. Not saying she is one, but I'm just saying most stalkers are psychopaths. Therefore, you can't help psychopaths. The only way you can help a psychopath, well, you can't help them, you can just stop them. But therapy isn't going to do anything, because they'll just play the therapist. So anyway, at this time, the harassment had become less frequent. After this, they tried to help her. The harassment became less frequent, so I agreed with the police. Oh, by the time he went to the police, the harassment had become less frequent, so I agreed with the police officer's recommendation. Okay, so she was toning down by that point, I guess. However, the following months, I continued to receive hundreds of emails from Harvey. I reached out to the police to express my concern and reopened the harassment case. In response, the police recommended I block her email address for the time being and advised me to inform the Holly Arms, that's the pub, that Harvey had been in contact with me again. Due to Harvey's frequent threatening visits to the pub, oh, so she's still going to the pub. So they're not stopping her. What the heck is wrong with this pub? It's called a bouncer. Don't let them in. Put their face. Some of these places have just put the face of the person right there. And it's like that person steps in the door, they chuck them right out. But apparently now she continued to, even though it had lessened, now she's getting hundreds of emails. They said, look, just block her emails. Which once you've got enough evidence on that, you really block the emails. And it's always a good idea, in my opinion. Rarely should you ever have any interaction with a stalker. Don't let them even know you got stuff, didn't get stuff. But sometimes it's worth saying one thing. I am blocking all your emails. I will never see them again. Boom. So they know that you're not reading them. Because the whole point is, when they send them, they think you're reading them. Guess what? He was reading them. She was winning because he was reading them. And that gets her off. And see, she's got a lot of sexual perversion wrapped up in it. Every time I read it, I'm sure she was having a good time thinking about it. And so the one thing I would have written back in that case is, I'm blocking all your emails. I will never read another one. Boom. Then she's like, wow, that's no fun. If I send them to him, they won't go through to him. He's not reading them. That ruins it all. So if you let a stalker know that you are not listening to their voicemails, you're blocking their number. You can block their number or do something about that. I do send all my unknown callers straight to voicemail, and I usually don't listen to them. I got look at that little transcript thing. If I see the first thing says, "Hi, I'm from this company," boom, bye. I don't waste my time with it. I don't want to spend my time listening to stupid voice messages from people that are just not worth listening to, because they're just solicitors or something selling stuff to me. The things that she was doing, he can stop a lot of that from happening by saying, I'm not going to pay any attention to it, ignoring her across the board. And that's what the police are trying to get across to him. Hey, do that. Because so far, was she really a violent danger? In other words, did you think your life was really threatened? Or was she just a constant, thorn in the side that you are allowing to be a thorn in your side? And as I said, I think he was. So then it goes on here. Then she made these threatening visits to the pub. And then she got his phone number. Okay. And because he said he didn't want to, he thought she should be the one not to call. Yeah. Okay. And then let's see if there's anything else here I want to. Then in 2016, September, he emailed the police a form that she had left me hours of voicemails, and he was preparing a document outlining the particularly threatening / aggressive moments from the voicemails. I then coordinated the police to hand off an SD card with the voicemail recordings. And then what happened? She left another string of them and blah, blah, blah. Let's see. And I followed up with the police, and I sent another email attaching 30 examples of her emails. Let's see. And what happened here? She left another, and then some more of that. I'm just trying to see what the police ever did here. Okay, I emailed the police again with the most intense part of the voicemails. Okay, by this, So September 30th, 2016 is where the last I'm seeing here, the email to the police. By this time, her harassment had been plaguing my life for over 2 years. I was fearful. I continually changed my daily routines to try to avoid her and not spend time in parts of London I knew she would be. I woke up in the night sweating, and and by the way, I'm not saying that if you have a stalker of this level and you haven't been able to stop them, it can take over your life. You can be completely freaked out. So I'll give them that credit, although I think there's some issues going on here besides what he wants you to believe is going on here. But I get it at that point. Yeah, you can be freaked out, pretty freaked out all the time. And then he said, yeah, okay, but her actions were becoming enormous in his life, blah, 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 blah. After many months of speaking to the police, I eventually obtained a first instance harassment warning against Harvey. After I obtained the warning, the emails and voicemail stopped. I thought the emails stopped because she blocked them, but okay, I don't get that. Okay, but so he should have done that a long time ago. What took her so long, buddy? But her behavior did not stop completely. For example, Harvey sent me another handwritten letter along with some underpants. And the letter stated, "You've not unblocked your email." I thought he was getting more emails. So I have not checked my emails. She's saying, I'm not looking at your emails. I don't know. Here are some unlucky underpants. Okay. If you had unblocked your email, I would send you good wishes. Okay. Then he told her to stop. Throughout my in-person interaction, I told her to stop. I asked her to stop attending my gigs. I didn't change my number because I strongly felt it was up to her to stop calling. And it was morally wrong of me to change my number. Dude, you got a lot of moral problems. A lot of your behavior is questionable yourself. So, like drugs and certain other things. All right. So I felt it was up her to adjust her behavior. Dude, if she's a stalking psychopath, if she is, she's not going to change her behavior. And you've had 2 years of this. You actually think she was going to change anything? Get out of here. So let's see. I did download some software and apps, which I thought would block the calls and unknown numbers, but none of those work. Overall, it's very stressful, blah, blah, blah. It is impossible to be exhaustive in setting out all of her conduct. And I hope this provides a little bit of something. I'm just trying to see where the final police thing is, which I don't see here. Let's see. She was never arrested. She was never jailed, like it said in the show. Did you wish that? But if nothing ever happened, why not? Why did the police never take any action for all of these things that she was doing? And now I don't know who to blame there, because there is a problem with police not reacting strongly enough. And sometimes it depends on what the laws are. And yeah, that is a huge problem. Stalking is not taken seriously enough by law enforcement, and the laws don't take stalking seriously enough. And I think we have to strengthen those. Now, as I've said before, there's a difference between being annoying and being a stalker. Those are two different things. And the police do have to try to determine what's true and what isn't. So that is always problematic. Same thing happens with the date rape situation. Somebody comes in and says, I was raped on a date rape thing. And well, yes, I was drinking. I was in bed with him, but I didn't say he could do A or B or C. And yet he did them anyway. And now the police are like, how are we supposed to believe it's, how do we know if it's consensual or not? Just because you say so. And both of you were drinking and you already did some sex stuff and you're naked already. How do we know? He was doing drugs with this guy, this guy was helping him with his career over and over and over again. He went back after the guy touched him sexually. He went back. Guy touched him sexually again. He went back. Guy touches him sexually again. He goes back. Then he claims he's been raped. How do we know that that's true? I don't know that that's true. And I don't think he can prove it. Can he go to the police at that point and say, well, this guy raped me? And they're like, well, how many times have you been to his house? Oh, I don't know, 30. He's been helping me with my stuff. When did this all start? Well, after I visited him, 25 times, he touched me. Well, then what happened? Well, I went back for more. What are the police supposed to believe? It's going to be he said, she said, or he said, or she said, she said, It's one of those deals. So a lot of times with stalking, the most important thing is to have absolute proof. And that is emails, voicemails, videos. If you put your phone out and take a video of somebody stalking you, that's fine. They're shrieking at you. Take that video. I don't think you should put it on TikTok. I think that's just rude. I mean, I don't like that stuff. But yes, you need to document it, and then you need to put it together in a decent package and go to the police and be able to sit down and say, this is a ongoing thing that is destroying my life, and not go in and then show one thing or something that's half-assed, just because maybe she said something about some political thing you didn't like. It, you tell the police, oh, she sent me this political thing. And what's your point, dude? Or she sent you a thing and said, I think you're hot. I mean, is that stalking? So you have to show a pattern, a strong pattern, and not just somebody who some people contact you 10 times in a row because, hey, first of all, you're a public figure because you're on stage doing comedy. You put yourself out there. Oh, I'm back. Sorry about that. I hit my iPad. The iPad hit the connection. So there you go. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up now that I've busted up everything. But I wanted to say, I put myself out here on YouTube. I was on TV for 15 years, did over 3,000 appearances. I am a public figure, and therefore people will possibly harass me. They are not even just harass me, just contact me, be excited, want to talk to me, have communications. It has to be a pattern of severe behavior, ongoing, threatening, affecting your life, and that it was unable to be stopped. Then you go to the police with that. But you have to take the information to the police. Make sure it's strong enough that you can get a result. I don't know what he took to the police. I don't know why he doesn't have a result. I don't get that. I would love to hear the police's point of view on why they didn't pursue what he brought to them. Either because when he brought it to them, he didn't bring enough convincing stuff at the time, or they didn't take him seriously. I do not know. I don't know how UK works as far as dealing with the stalking cases. So I don't know. But his behaviors were kind of strange. Her behaviors are very concerning. So does she appear to be a stalker and possibly a psychopath? I think she appears to check those boxes. She may not be, but she appears to check those boxes. Will she still be able to win possibly from Netflix? I think she's got a case because they said it was a true story and they did not tell the truth. They fabricated stuff about her, and it was clearly about her. It was not about some fictionalized, vague person. It was clearly 100% she. They painted that character. It was her. And then they added stuff to it, which wasn't true. And whether you liking her or don't like her doesn't matter. What matters is, if you're going to call it a true story, it damn well better be. And for all of you internet stalkers who call yourselves sleuths, just because you don't like her and you think she deserves to be harassed, that makes you a stalker. And get yourself a life. It's not your business what she does if it's not affecting your life. It's not up to you to play police and go after her. And if you do that, you're as bad a stalker as she is. Maybe you are the psychopath. Think about that. And there's too much stalking on the internet. It's disgusting. And people are going after her like you wouldn't believe, as if they think they have the right to do that. They do not. That's not their problem. And stalking is stalking, regardless of who the victim is. Whether you like the victim or you don't like the victim, it's still stalking. Your behaviors are your behaviors. Her behaviors are her behaviors. But you can't say because she's got her behaviors, you're allowed to have bad behavior of your own. No, it doesn't work that way. So stop doing that, you internet stalker people. Stop doing it. Now, okay, so anyway, that's it. I wanted to thank the woman again who sent the information to me so I could see the actual detailed information. So now I will know way, way more. I'm still conflicted about his role in this. And I don't like to blame the victim, but he's got some issues and he didn't. And so I question his own behaviors as to what he did with her and why he did those things and how he handled them. I question them. And when you come out with a whole series based on a person that you didn't turn into the police and you, quote, tolerated for years, you allowed this for years. I just wonder if you were writing yourself a really great script. And so you were willing to put up with it. And I don't know how much you suffered. You say you suffered, and maybe you did to some extent, but I don't know. Because you said everything is fictionalized and dramatized and all that stuff. I don't know whether all those feelings you expressed in the movie, in the series, were really true feelings, or whether you exaggerated those. And while you're saying you were just terrified and crying, you were actually just having fun with your friends. How do I know? Maybe because I think you are a drama queen. I think you like to present yourself. You like to do this this style of performance art where you go deep into all your feelings and cry and shriek and fall apart and all those. That's what you present. A lot of people love it. But I'm going to say, if you do that over and over again, you're probably just a good actor. And I don't know how much is true. But having seen the paperwork, I still say she is what she is, but I'm not quite sure what you were. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. I hope you learned something about stalkers. And let's see how this Netflix thing turns out. Because I have issues with the media not honoring being honest and truthful, although it's the media. So, but if you're going to do a documentary should be fair-minded and should be truthful, and hopefully not overly agenda-driven, though many are. And if you're going to be agenda-driven, you should just darn well say it up front, like, we are representing the defense team in this particular case that we're talking about. But if you're going to claim that you're even keeled, but you're totally only doing the defense stuff and allowing the defense to lie through the whole thing, and like making a murderer, Netflix, then I got problems with you. So I personally hope that Netflix gets nailed for something. Although I'm not saying she deserves any of the money, but sometimes you do have to keep the certain media outlets on their toes. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for being here again. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. And yeah, let's see how it all turns out. Bye.